let's talk about what your action is right now that you're looking to do and why.
Yeah. So one of the things that we saw when in Trump 2 is every single judge who's nominated for the federal bench under Trump has to essentially take a loyalty pledge. This is unlike it was in Trump 1, because every one of the senators is asking about who won or lost the 2020 election and what happened on January 6th. And if you are to be in Trump's favor, and unlike the first administration, he announces all these nominations on Truth Social. People don't know about him ahead of time. So it's clear that he's looking at every single one of these federal judicial nominations very closely. Every single one, in order to be nominated by Trump, you cannot have said that he lost the 2020 election, and you cannot be truthful about what happened on January 6th. So every single one of these judges, and every one of them has been asked.
And just to be clear, this is not a comedy routine that you're saying. This is actually true.
Correct.
Like, you literally have to make sure that your record on any public discourse,
yes,
and in any
and
type
when
of hearing,
asked in this process. You cannot say that Trump lost the 2020 election. And to the extent where you see every one of them has essentially the same language in their written questions, it's like their out is, well, officially the House certified Biden as the winner, which is not, did he win? It just says that this third party said he won, right? And then on January 6th, they say some version of, well, I'm weighing in on a political matter, and there's active litigation about the pardons, which is like mostly not true. They can't, because we know those are the two things that Trump, if you on the wrong side of those things, you are done with Trump. And I think it's funny because can you imagine any single one of these nominees in a hearing, if they're asked the question, who lost the 2020 election? If they said Donald Trump lost the 2020 election, everybody who pays attention to politics, everybody knows that their nomination would be yanked the same day. They would be done, right? And so yet we have all of these people being nominated to federal judgeships at a time when he's weaponizing the DOJ. He's initiating these revenge prosecutions against his political enemies. And last week, we saw Senate Democrats on the Judiciary Committee, 6 of them last week, and now Hirono today, more, have voted to approve these judges and report them out favorably to the floor. And none of these people can say that Trump lost the 2020 election. And to me, that means they're politically compromised. Why? So we launched an ad campaign. We're spending 6 figures, and we're going to increase
the Why are they doing this?
That's a great question.
What is
part of it is log rolling. Like, part of them might want might need the vote of one of these home state senators in the future. I think part of them want to look like they're bipartisan in some way. But as a result, they're enabling Trump to lower the bar of what constitutes as qualified. They're essentially enabling the authoritarianism by saying these judges are qualified when they have to take political loyalty oaths. And here's the thought. Here's the sort of a experiment here. None of them were nominees to the Eastern District of Virginia, where the hack Lindsey Halligan is prosecuting Jim Comey.
Yes.
Imagine if one of these nominees was being nominated to a district court where Trump had fired the United States attorney for refusing to prosecute his political enemies, had put in a crony like Lindsey Halligan to file BS charges against his political enemies, and you had a judge presiding over that case in Rome.
It's all a racket.
You cannot say that
it's completely rigged.
2020 election. It's a banana republic at this point.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Yes, they weren't appointed to the Eastern District of Virginia, but a couple of them were appointed to district courts in Alabama. Imagine if one of Trump's enemies was former Senator Doug Jones. You can't. There is no moral, historical, or frankly political rationalization for voting for any of these judges.
And the reason why 7 Democratic senators and more will sign off on these is because there is no political price for them to pay.
Correct.
To do it. And it's the easiest. I mean, this is the way they always make decisions, right? It's like, okay, there's some marginal benefit. I might need a favor from somebody, whatever it is. And there's no price to pay. So why? That's it. That's the equation.
And imagine 20 years from now, when we're looking back at these votes in Senate Judiciary Committee, where Peter Welch was one of the first, and he gave this quote about, well, I found a needle in a haystack. I found a Trump judge that was qualified. Qualified to do what? Right? This guy had had a very scant record. He came from the Central District of Florida. I believe he was the son of a lobbyist who had defended police misconduct cases. Like, because they lack any smoking gun in their overt record does not mean that, like, you are participating in the sort of shrinking down of what constitutes qualified because Trump is so bad. Like, that's enabling.
And there's no price to pay. So the idea is make it costly for these Democratic senators to cast this vote. Make them feel like there is a downside to making these votes because people are paying attention to it. And so what is the current campaign that you guys are doing?
So the first campaign we launched last week, we're spending, six figures. We're targeting both Durbin, who's the ranking member, and Chris Coons, who's a longtime member of the Judiciary Committee and has been sort of on the opposite side of some demand justice campaigns in the past. Billboards and digital ads in their home states and online, basically asking the voter, like, what are they thinking? Right? They voted to capitulate to Trump.
Why is Durbin, of all people, doing? Isn't he retiring?
I don't know. I mean, I think maybe to give cover to other Dems on the committee. I just don't know. And we saw even Schiff in California vote for one of them, vote one of them favorably off the committee last week. And so today we're going to expand that to a couple more senators. We saw, Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island, Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota, Mazie Hirono, sadly from Hawaii, even voted one off favorably. And I think one of the things, the funny thing is last week when they did this, they had talked, some of these senators who did this had talked earlier in the committee, like moments earlier, bemoaning the weaponization of the DOJ to prosecute Comey, and then turned around moments later and voted for these judges who could not say that Trump lost the 2020 election. And so, part of this is going back to this whole notion of thinking through the Obama nominating Garland for the Supreme Court of it all, right? Is that part of this is that if they're going to sort of send these angry tweets, if they're going to go on cable news, calling Trump an authoritarian, you can't then, in the sort of confines of the Judiciary Committee, when you're sitting next to your Republican colleagues and it's sort of all friendly and you're sort of arguing about norms, you can't then vote for his judges, right? You actually have, if you're going to, you have to act honestly, you have to act consistently with what is going on in the world outside with the attacks on the DOJ. You can't have it both ways. You can't sort of try and show some bipartisanship and at the same time say the sky is falling because Trump is attacking the rule of law.
Right. And the idea is, on some level, reflective of what's happening now with the government shutdown. People are paying attention. The Democrats are signaling this is not normal. What's going on here? The president is, trying to unilaterally cut the budget. There's no point in saying, it creates an awareness of what the issue is because people need to be engaged with the courts and with the idea that every judicial nominee is going to have implications down the road, maybe next week for that matter, or 6 months from now or whatnot. And even more so when we have a president who is assaulting the foundations of, the judiciary. Yes.
On some level, I didn't expect to have to do this so quickly after I took over dementia. On some level, I feel like it's almost absurd that we're having to do this, that we're having to call on these, we have to sort of put pressure on these Democrats for voting for these Trump judges. I'm a little gobsmacked about it. I guess I should never overestimate the Democratic Senate caucus, or at least some of them. But to me, I can't believe that we have to do this. And I can't believe, and I think especially, look, people are going to say, well, why are you going after Dems? You should be going after Republicans. Here's the thing. It's not just sort of a historical and moral argument for doing it this way. There's an election coming up next year. And one of the biggest problems Democrats have now that they need to sort of work on is they are seen by the general voting public as incapable of going to D.C. and taking on the big fights and reforming the institutions so that government serves people better. They are not seen as people who are strong on taking on the fights for reform. And so part of this is in their own political interest to actually be consistent and plant their feet and do their job, right? This isn't just a moral question. This isn't just a historical question. There's a political imperative here to actually standing up to Trump.
Josh Orton, we'll put a link to Demand Justice.
DemandJustice.org.
People can go there, support your organization, support your work, petitions, and also you'll get cues as to which senators you should be calling and saying, how are you? Like, I know there's people, I've been seeing it in our IMs, people are like, what? Mazie Hirono or any Democrat is voting for Trump's nominees. People just aren't aware of it. And I'm glad you're in a position now to help raise people's awareness, and we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, I hope. And next time, let's get a little better spot on the program, Sam. Maybe a little earlier in the show.
Yes, we'll upgrade. And I'm sorry, it's very hard to find.
We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it later.
It's hard to find help around here. We'll get to the. All right, thanks, Josh.
Thank you, Sam.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.